step into the core of one of the most significant episodes in American history as we examine the harrowing events of the Battle of Gettysburg. Famous for its intense combat and enormous casualties, the battle transformed legendary locations like Devil's Den and Little Round Top into enduring symbols of courage and sacrifice. Amid this turmoil, one voice resonates clearly: General John Bell Hood. In a heartfelt letter written to General James Longstreet a decade after the war, Hood contemplates the harsh truths of battle, the burdens of command, and the haunting memories that endure long after the fighting ceases. Join us as we explore Hood's first-hand narrative, uncovering the complexities of his experience and the profound influence it had on the Civil War's trajectory. This is more than a mere chronicle of conflict. It is a voyage into the psyche of a soldier wrestling with the war's deep scars and the legacy he created. Before we start, please like and subscribe to our channel to support our community. When the Battle of Gettysburg comes to mind, many names are recalled: Pickett, Hancock, Meade, McLaws, Longstreet. But today, we focus on General John Bell Hood. His assault on Little Round Top remains one of the most critical moments of this landmark battle. It is crucial to hear General John Bell Hood's personal narrative of the events that unfolded on that fateful day, July 2nd, 1863. Many years later, in 1875, General James Longstreet, who had become somewhat of an outcast among former Confederates due to his political realignment, reached out to Hood, seeking his perspective on the Battle of Gettysburg. I would like to share the letter Hood wrote back to Longstreet, where he vividly recounts his experiences during the battle. Hood describes arriving with his staff at the heights of Gettysburg shortly after sunrise on the morning of July 2nd. As previously mentioned, his division began filing into an open field nearby, where soldiers were allowed to stack their arms and rest while awaiting further orders from their superiors. Not far ahead, during the early hours, Hood and his men were engaged alongside Generals Lee and A.P. Hill as they carefully observed the placements of the Federal troops. General Lee, dressed in full uniform with his coat buttoned tightly to his throat and his saber belt firmly fastened around his waist, paced back and forth beneath the shade of towering trees surrounding them. He carried his field glasses at his side and occasionally stopped to scrutinize the enemy positions closely. Lee appeared hopeful, though at times he seemed lost in deep thought, considering the formidable challenges ahead. Nearby, Colonel Fremantle from England was perched in the fork of a tree, persistently using binoculars to study the elevated Federal Army positions. This vivid account from Hood offers a profound glimpse into the tension and anticipation preceding one of the most decisive moments in the battle. General Lee's eagerness for an attack that morning was unmistakable. He conveyed to me the urgency, stating that the enemy was present, and if we did not strike first, they would strike us down. Despite this, I felt it was wiser to wait for Pickett's division, which was still en route, before initiating any action. Later, as we sat together near the trunk of a robust tree, you remarked that the general appeared somewhat anxious that morning. He was intent on attacking, but I was reluctant to do so without Pickett. I have always harbored a discomfort about entering battle unprepared, often saying that I never liked to go into combat with one boot off. Thus, the morning passed slowly, laden with both anticipation and tension. By mid-afternoon, around 3 o'clock, we reached a decision. We could no longer wait for Pickett's division. We resolved to redirect our efforts to the far right and to prepare to attack along the Emmitsburg Road. McLaws advanced forward, with my division following closely behind. Soon after, I received orders to hasten the movement of my troops and to move ahead of McLaws. To facilitate this, I dispatched an advance force tasked with tearing down fences and clearing the route for our march. My orders were explicit: position my division across the Emmitsburg Road, form a battle line, and prepare for the attack. Yet before reaching the road, I sent forward some of my reliable Texas scouts to confirm the enemy's extreme left flank. They swiftly reported back that the opposing flank rested upon Round Top Mountain. This intelligence was critical as we prepared for the next phase of engagement. My scouts reported that the terrain around Round Top was open and allowed us to maneuver through a wooded pasture, giving us the opportunity to strike the enemy from the side and rear. They also observed that the Federal wagon trains were densely packed just behind their lines, making them particularly vulnerable to an attack from that direction. When I reached the Emmetsburg Road, I acted swiftly. I promptly positioned 1 or 2 artillery batteries and opened fire, ready to engage the enemy and potentially shift the tide of the battle. The enemy's artillery response quickly exposed their positions. Their left flank was located near Round Top, with their lines forming a concave shape that curved back and forth as we advanced along the Emmetsburg Road. In front of their main line, many troops were positioned between the Emmetsburg Road and Round Top Mountain. This forward force was arranged in battle formation on a rise near a peach orchard. I understood that to obey orders and launch our attack along the Emmetsburg Road, my first task would be to confront and push back this forward battle line. At the base and along the slope of Round Top Mountain, we confronted massive boulders piled together, forming narrow gaps that threatened to disrupt our formations and scatter the men as they climbed the steep, rocky incline. I also recognized that my division would be highly vulnerable to intense fire from the enemy's main line, positioned on the crest of the high ground, with Round Top marking the far left. Because of the concave shape of the enemy's main line, we faced the daunting prospect of withering fire not only from the front, but also from the side and rear. I believed it nearly impossible to navigate the treacherous boulders up such a rugged mountain under this crossfire and still successfully drive the enemy back. I was painfully aware that if we were to achieve success, it would come at a terrible cost to some of the bravest and most valiant soldiers ever to face battle. The reconnaissance by my Texas scouts and the observations of the Federal lines were completed in an impressively short time, quicker than it has taken me to recount these details, though the events of that day remain etched in my memory as vividly as if they had just occurred. This crucial intelligence was obtained shortly after I reached the Emmetsburg Road, compelling me to immediately inform you that I believed attacking directly up the Emmetsburg Road as ordered was unwise. I urged you to allow me to maneuver around Round Top and attack the enemy from the side and rear instead. To this end, I dispatched a staff officer to convey my proposal and its reasoning. Your reply was prompt, stating that General Lee's orders were to attack up the Emmetsburg Road. I sent another officer to reiterate my concerns that such an attack was unlikely to succeed and to emphasize once more my request to turn Round Top. Once again, your response remained unchanged. General Lee's orders were to attack up the Emmetsburg Road. Meanwhile, I continued to bombard the enemy with artillery fire, becoming increasingly convinced that the Federal line indeed extended all the way to Round Top. Given this, I could not reasonably expect any significant success through the attack as directed. In fact, it seemed to me that the enemy occupied a position so naturally strong that it could almost be described as impregnable. They could easily repel our assault by simply rolling rocks down the mountainside as we advanced, even without relying on their flank fire. For the third time, I dispatched one of my staff officers to fully explain the situation and to suggest that you come to see it personally. I selected my adjutant general, Colonel Harry Sellers, knowing him to be both a courageous and highly competent officer. Colonel Sellers returned with the same message. General Lee's orders were to attack up the Emmetsburg Road. Almost immediately afterward, Colonel Fairfax from your staff arrived to reiterate those orders. After making this urgent protest against proceeding with the Gettysburg attack as instructed, my first and only protest in my entire military career, I reluctantly ordered my line to advance and commence the assault. As my troops advanced, you personally came to speak with me. During our brief conversation, I once again voiced my concerns and expressed regret that I was not permitted to flank around Round Top. You reminded me firmly that we must follow General Lee's orders. Pressing onward, I led my line under heavy enemy fire. About 20 minutes after reaching the peach orchard, I sustained a severe wound to my arm and was carried from the battlefield. This injury ended my direct involvement in this critical fight. Being carried away on a litter, my heart and mind were weighed down with worry for the brave soldiers of my division, one of the finest in the Army. I truly believed that, had I been allowed to maneuver around Round Top Mountain, we would not only have secured that position, but also succeeded in routing the enemy. I remain respectfully yours. J. B. Hood John Bell Hood is one of the most intriguing generals in history. He is a complex figure, and I hope to produce more videos exploring his personal life. However, his attack during the Battle of Gettysburg remains prominent to this day. Locations such as Devil's Den and Little Round Top are among the most famous and recognizable sites from the battle, notorious for the fierce and bloody combat that unfolded there. The fighting at these sites was among the most brutal of the entire Civil War, marked by intense clashes and heavy casualties. What makes these events even more compelling is the personal account offered by General John Bell Hood, providing invaluable insight into the battle's human experience and strategic challenges. It is essential to recognize that General John Bell Hood wrote his account a full decade after the end of the war. This time, Gap naturally raises questions about the reliability of his memories. Human memory, being fallible, can blur or alter details over time, and Hood did not document his thoughts immediately after the battle, which adds uncertainty to his narrative. Therefore, while we cannot be certain that every detail he recounted is perfectly accurate, his letter to General James Longstreet still provides a captivating and valuable perspective on his experiences. Beyond simply recounting events, Hood's reflections offer a rare glimpse into the mindset of a Confederate general grappling with the chaos of battle and the heavy burden of leadership. His vivid descriptions and emotional tone bring to life the harsh conditions faced by soldiers during the Battle of Gettysburg. Tragically, Hood passed away just 4 years after writing this letter in New Orleans. Historians and Civil War enthusiasts continue to study Hood's life and military career, intrigued by his complex character and controversial decisions. As we explore his legacy further in future discussions, Hood's actions at Gettysburg, along with the broader consequences of his military choices, remain significant in understanding the course of the Civil War. I hope this first-hand account has deepened your understanding of Gettysburg's events and the human complexities faced by soldiers during the conflict. Stay tuned for more videos where I aim to share personal narratives from various battles throughout history. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.